Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Urban Pharmacy Podcast. I'm thrilled to tell you about today's guest. It is Dr. Josh Helman. We're talking all things Alzheimer's, and you're going to listen to his bio and learn more about him right when the episode gets started. But before we get going, I want to make sure that you know that the Ultimate Vegan Health Bundle is now available for a very short amount of time. From March 1st to March 10th, you can snag over 140 detailed contributions plus ebooks, recipes, courses, masterclasses, plus a few coupons for products exclusive to the bundle. And you are going to be able to transform your life for just $50. It is over $8,000 worth of content. And this bundle is vegan. It is also oil-free. And there's a huge focus on health and living a lifestyle of wellness. Like I said, the bundle is only available from March 1st through the 10th. So if you are feeling like you need some new inspiration and like you need the reignite button to be hit on your body and your mindset, then this bundle is for you. The bundle, again, sells for only one payment of $49, but if you purchase all of the content separately, it would be about $1,000 worth, which is over 99% discount when you include all of the items that are in the bundle. So please don't sit on this amazing exclusive offer. It is just for people like you who want to elevate their health and transform their life through evidence-based nutrition and through healthy living. There's over 100 creators that have joined to be part of this special bundle, including myself and plant-based doctors, raw food enthusiasts, fitness, yoga, and more. You can find a wide range of content in this bundle, and some of the highlights are that everything is new content. Plus, again, there's video content, classes, courses, brand new plant-based recipes, and then an exclusive collector's spring-themed ebook that has a whole bunch of recipes in there as well to help you really go into 2024 strong. So this bundle is truly an incredible deal. I do not want you to miss it. Please click down in the show notes to grab your bundle before it's gone forever on March 10th, 2024. And without further ado, here is Dr. Josh Helman. I hope you love this episode. So here we are with Dr. Joshua Helman. He is a Harvard-trained physician licensed in 14 states, and he has 2 degrees in biochemistry. And Dr. Josh is board certified by the American Board of Emergency Medicine and the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine, and is currently focusing and specializing in reversing and preventing Alzheimer's. And that is actually how I found Dr. Helman. So we're going to talk about that in this episode. But Dr. Joshua Helman, welcome to the Urban Pharmacy Podcast.
Thanks. It's such a pleasure to be here. Yes.
I am so happy and thankful that I got to not only come to your talk at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, but also meet you there. Because quite frankly, I didn't know about you yet. And in this amazing, small, but also huge plant-based, lifestyle and world that we're living in, it's always really awesome to find medical professionals and health professionals, integrative health professionals, naturopathic doctors, all of those people. It's always awesome to find new people to bring into, this ecosystem and to also share with the world. So I'm just so thankful. And I will just say, we're going to talk mostly about Alzheimer's today. And something that I saw in your talk, Dr. Helman, was so fascinating. And it was really about like bringing in herbs and bringing in some Chinese medicine in addition to this plant-based lifestyle that we know is so beneficial in preventing and even helping to reverse Alzheimer's. So before we get into this, I want to just know a little bit more about you. I know that I want to know how you went plant-based first off, and then also maybe you have a fun fact that you want to share.
Yeah, no, those are great questions. And wow, how did I get into this? A dozen years ago, I had my own health challenges. I was 50 pounds overweight and had high blood pressure. And despite having, 2 degrees from Harvard and knowing all about biochemistry and trained as an emergency physician, I couldn't fix myself
Mhm.
with traditional treatments. It was just really frustrating. And that's why I started looking like there's got to be a solution to this. And yeah, so I went to it's funny what really you know transitioned me to being vegan is there's this cruise I would this vegan cruise I would go on every single year called the Holistic Holiday at Sea. And I was skeptical the first year I went, but with my 2 degrees in biochemistry, I was able to fact check what all the different doctors were saying. And after the second and third year, yeah, I mean, I was hooked. But I wasn't one of these people who I heard the message and then the next day I changed. No, I was like, okay, that's really good about cutting out meat and milk and dairy and cheese, but you know what? Let me just start by cutting out meat.
Mhm.
What's the least I can do
Right,
and
right.
and still be healthy. And so I played that game, but it took me years, but fortunately it's been like 8 years now of completely plant-based. But to my point is I think it's more than just that, because as you probably know, you can eat a vegan diet, but it's just not good for you if it's all processed foods.
Mm.
So taking the next step and going to no added salt, oil, and sugar, and I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty good, and I saw huge gains just from that. So a fun fact about me is I I like working at programs or facilities that are plant based. As medical director at Hippocrates,
Oh, wow.
so I was there for a year, and I call that kind of a vegan bubble, because
Right.
you're basically living and around other and working around other people who are just eating plants. And then working at True North, which is a fasting center, which is also plant based. And being in that bubble, it's like it was tough leaving that bubble. And you get out to the real world, and unfortunately not everyone, actually most people, have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, you might have mentioned briefly when we chatted quickly at the festival about maybe how you had worked at Woodstock and perhaps at True North, but now that you reminded me,
Hippocrates.
oh,
That
what
that
did
was
I
that was
say?
the first Woodstock for me.
Oh yes. Did I say Woodstock? I meant
Yeah,
Hippocrates and
yeah,
and True North. So but that just makes you even more cool. Okay. I will just say because both of these facilities are so well, at least well known in the plant-based community, to be places that people can go to heal. And I think what both of the facilities, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but both of the facilities have so much in common is what you mentioned about the SOS free lifestyle. And that is, yeah,
Actually, let me be clear.
yeah,
So True North definitely supports the SOS free, no added salt, oil, and sugar.
yeah.
Hippocrates does not. In fact,
Okay, okay.
they're a big fan of olive oil.
Are they?
Yeah, they
Have
are.
they
Despite
always been?
I think that's Brian Clement, who runs the place. That's his argument. It's like, hey, we've been doing this since the 1950s, and like,
Okay.
why should we change? And I'm like, well, there are published studies now showing that after you eat olive oil, there's damage to your blood vessels. But he wasn't open to that, which is why I'm not there anymore. But but no, they're not. And in terms of adding salt, unfortunately, in the form of seaweed. I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
I
So I
still
would not
eat
I
seaweed.
would
I
not call
totally.
Hippocrates SOS free. But despite that, on a daily basis, I would see people with all these chronic diseases get better,
Right,
just
right.
like I would at True North. So yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, they're different approaches, and I'm never dogmatic. You have to do it this way. That's what I love about having worked in different places. I've seen what works and what doesn't work, and then I can give people options and find out what fits in their lifestyle.
I love that. Well, regardless if you are trying to heal and regardless if you are on the oil side or the non-oil side, just know that just a free little, uh, bump for both of them. The Hippocrates Health Institute is in Florida. The True North Health Institute is in California. I'm pretty sure there's a wait list for both. So if you want to heal, go check out both and start your healing journey. But okay, so you have experience in this plant-based world. How long have you been living plant-based?
I'd say my journey started about 12 years ago, but it's been about 8 years since I've been, pure or, not cheating. I would never imagine cheating now because from what I know of it, the higher up you go on the food chain, the higher levels of toxins. So,
Yeah, right,
it's the same thing like, there's dirt on the ground. I wouldn't eat dirt, like,
right,
unless I had a good reason. So it's the same thing with I just don't and you may realize this too, like the longer you do this, you look at food and you don't at what other people call like I would call junk food, but
right.
other people would call um food, and you're like, no, that's not for me. I'll give you an example. I was at this Alzheimer's reversal conference last week in Boca
Okay.
Raton, and one of the keynote speakers, who's an alumna, famous scientist. I was talking to her after her lecture on some new molecules for reversing Alzheimer's, and it was a break time, and she was going to go over and get some potato chips, and she said, "Oh, do you want some potato chips?" I'm like, "Oh no, I don't eat that because of acrylamide,"
Oh
and
my
she knows
God.
what acrylamide is. She had no idea that there was high concentrations of acrylamide in potato chips.
Oh, well, of
so
course.
like what you and I may understand, it's even among the experts, the scientific
Yeah,
experts who've been, I mean, she was at Harvard the same time I was, 30 years ago. It
right.
doesn't matter unless you actually look into this. It's not on people's radar screen.
Well, why was there even potato chips at the conference in the first place? Is my question. You know what I mean? But it's just so true. And that I think just, we just need to bring awareness right now. Again, like you said a little bit earlier at the beginning, like vegan does not necessarily mean healthy. And vegan, there's so many vegan foods out there these days because there is this huge vegan movement, which is great. But it's great for the animals, great for the environment. But I would say it's absolutely awful for human health, unfortunately. So it's so important to understand how to eat well to prevent these, the heart disease, which is our number one killer, and also Alzheimer's, which is on so many people's radar today. And I want to talk to you more about that. How did you get into, the science of Alzheimer's? Why did you start studying this? And why are you now creating, a place for it?
Yeah, so I learned about Alzheimer's, unfortunately, as a little kid, as a little boy, when my grandmother got Alzheimer's, and my mom's mom, and I saw how it devastated not not just her, but you know but also my parents,
Yeah.
and their contemporaries, because it's not just the stress of taking care of your mom, but it's also, oh wait, if this is happening to her, fast forward, okay, maybe 20, 30 years from now, this is going to happen to me.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I grew up, seeing that. And then about 6 years ago, I started working in Tampa, Florida at an IV clinic where we were reversing Alzheimer's and other causes of dementia from like Lyme disease, mold toxicity, and we were getting people better. Now it took intensive intravenous therapy for months and months and months, but we were actually reversing this.
Wow.
And then the what triggered me to start my own clinic was um, basically a a new FDA approved for compassionate use drug that doesn't have all the side effects of brain bleeds, etc. And this past November, I did a summit, had 30,000 people, had a summit on reversing and preventing Alzheimer's and aging. And I could tell, I got 40 of the experts, and I could tell there are so many things that people can do. They don't need to rely just on medications to prevent and reverse aging and Alzheimer's. So to me, my goal now is just to get the information out to as many people as possible, which is why I jumped at the chance to get on your podcast. Yeah.
Oh, yay. Well, this message really needs to be shared. And truth be told, really the only thing that I really have gotten a lot of my information about Alzheimer's prevention and halting it and then reversal is through the Sure Eyes. Dr. Dina and Aisha Shirzai, and they're also in the plant-based community. Now, I want to know from you, why do you think that plant-based can actually be a really key part of helping to prevent and reverse Alzheimer's? Like, what are the basics with that?
Yeah, so I think you have to step back and say, like, what actually causes Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And we could talk for a very long time about that, but I'll just boil it down to, there are many different causes, say even 30 to 50 different causes in each person, and those are going to be a little bit different person to person. But one of the commonalities or is specifically toxin exposure. So going back to what I said before, is if you're eating at the top of the food chain, it turns out that there are these endocrine disruptors, toxins that are fat soluble, that hang out in the body sometimes for 10, 20, 30 years, and you are what you eat. So if you're eating from the top of the food chain, through something called biomagnification, you have higher toxin levels higher up you go on the food chain. If you're eating at the very top of the food chain, namely animals or milk or eggs, you're going to have much higher levels of these toxins, as opposed to if you're eating plants from the water or the land, much lower toxin levels. So I think that's going to be one of the big changes, and why plant-based people, I mean, we know from the studies that the people who eat mainly plants have much lower levels of these toxins. And then the corollary is, because you are what you eat, if you have lower toxin levels, you're going to have a longer life expectancy, and you're going to have fewer of these chronic diseases of aging, like Alzheimer's.
So what does cause Alzheimer's? Like, what is causing this rapid aging outside of these? I mean, you can touch more on toxins as well, but like outside of that, what
Sure.
else
So
with
yeah,
our
so
lifestyles?
I'll just throw some, and this list isn't going to be inclusive because we're talking 30 to 50, but I'll just to give people some ideas. Um, it's been called type 3 diabetes. So insulin resistance can be a piece of it. Inflammation is a big piece. From the AI, from the machine learning, one of the biggest risk factors for Alzheimer's is actually sleep disorders, not getting into nice deep REM sleep. And other causes are infections. So parasites, as an example, if you're eating raw fish or certain types of meats, you're at a higher risk of infection than if you're eating plants. And other common causes are low vitamin D levels, thyroid disorders, brain trauma can head trauma can be part of it. There's
What
so
about
many.
lack of exercise?
Sure, definitely. I mean, we know that exercise is a great way to stimulate BDNF, a growth factor, that brain derived neurotrophic uh, um, growth factor. So yes, we know exercise not only reverses your biologic clock, but it will prevent Alzheimer's. What's also interesting is the biochemical changes of exercise are almost identical to fasting. So, and I don't recommend people fast and exercise at the same time, but you know, I would definitely, if you're not exercising, if you don't have some type of fasting in your life, I would definitely look at both of those.
Yeah. Do you currently fast? Like, do you practice a intermittent fasting?
I do. Haven't done like a 10-day water fast for like a year now, but I tried. I try to have a feeding window that starts around noon and goes to maybe 6 or 7 or 8 p.m. So I
Mhm.
try to skip breakfast, and I find the more you do it, the easier it gets. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think that and I'm just asking because this is the way that I do it. And I feel like I've seen some validity to doing it the other way. So like eating it earlier and cutting it off earlier for circadian rhythm purposes. And like, what do you think about that? Do you think it really matters? I mean, have you seen any science supporting that maybe eating earlier would actually be more beneficial?
I have, but to my mind, whatever works in your
Yeah,
lifestyle, that doing it is so much more important than, like,
right,
for example, if you're only going to do one meal a day,
right.
if that meal happens to be at 6 in the morning, at 6 p.m., I don't think it matters as much as that you actually do that.
Right. Yeah. And can you talk about autophagy?
Sure. Autophagy is it's a Greek word. Auto means self and phagy means eating. It's basically the concept that the body can recycle proteins and other constituents in cells. It can recycle it by eating itself. So, for example, one of the benefits of fasting is that your body will, because there are no other energy sources, will start relying on and recycling proteins and other building blocks that are currently misformed, so
Mhm.
that when you end the fast, your body releases stem cells and you can actually build new proteins. So
Mhm.
autophagy is a good thing. You want your body to be constantly recycling, taking the misformed and defective proteins and other building blocks, and having new ones being rebuilt.
Okay, before we get too far into this episode, I've got to mention Oliveda once again, my very favorite waterless beauty brand. This is beauty from the inside out and outside in. I came across this brand about 5 months ago. It is based out of Europe and has been there for 20 years with great efficacy and a return rate of customers. About 85% of them return back. And you want to know why? It's because this skincare and these ingestibles lend results. They give you boost of vitamin C. They give you antioxidants galore. Everything is based on the olive leaf extract from Oliveda versus being based on water and preservatives, which is what I was selling before without even knowing that these ingredients can be inflammatory to the skin. So when you are using a water-based product, again, it has to have a good amount of preservatives added to it, which can cause inflammation. I don't want to have to promote anything like that. I want to promote to use something that's going to work, that's bioactive, that is packed with antioxidants and nutrients that are going to be absorbed well into your skin and that you are going to get wonderful results from. I want you to get the most bang for your buck. I want you to feel better from within, and I want you to feel more confident when you look at yourself in the mirror. That is exactly what Oliveda has done for me and so many other people. Now, I want to invite you to come along and be a consultant with me if you are really intrigued by this brand, or you can simply purchase. If you have no idea where to start, just take the quiz. It will recommend 6 products that can be used topically and internally that will help you to boost your gut health, help reduce inflammation, and help to make your skin radiate from the outside in and inside out. If you purchase 2 of the products from the recommended quiz results, you will receive a free full-sized eye product immediately with your purchase. In addition, again, there's an opportunity here because this brand is brand new to the United States. So it's been in Europe for 20 years. They decided to come over to Europe. It's ground floor. And if you have been following me for any length of time, you know that I love direct selling. I love to be able to make money from home as I am a homemaker. I am a homeschooler. I'm a nutritionist, and I wear a lot of hats, and I like to be able to make money and make an impact at the same time. That is what this Waterless Beauty brand has done for me, and I hope that it can transform your life financially or with your confidence by using the products, by sharing the products. Any way that you get involved is amazing. So click down in the show notes below. You can join me as a consultant and earn money and make an impact, or you can simply start buying and get the glow up. Support your gut, reduce the inflammation, stop using water-based skincare and hair care and body care, and switch over to Waterless Beauty from Oliveda. All right, back to the show. And that would pretty much be the main reason why we would want to practice a form of fasting. And fasting can be done so many ways. Do you know, Dr. Helman, how quickly can we get into this autophagy?
Yeah, before I answer that,
Yeah.
it's not just for autophagy. I mean,
All
there
right.
are, I think one of the other key benefits of fasting is that you're not overwhelming our metabolic system with too many calories.
Mhm.
If you think back to our ancestors, they didn't have access to all this food, and we're not designed to constantly be, eating like our society kind of promotes it with the advertising on TV and everything available available. So to answer your question about how long does it take for autophagy to actually start, um, I think, just skipping breakfast, you're going to get a little bit of autophagy. The same thing with ketosis. You may have a little bit of ketosis, if you skip breakfast,
Right.
but the deep ketosis I would normally see um, after 2 to 3 days of a water fast.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but that's not a reason not it's to say like, well, I'm going to be either perfect or nothing. No, this is where, yeah, you're and frankly, that's a reason why you want to get 7 to 8 hours of good sleep a night, because that recycling process really only happens when you're resting. And if you're only resting, sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night, the autophagy process isn't really going to happen as well.
So, okay. So if one of the main factors that is, let's kind of move on back to this sleep thing as we
Okay.
kind of put all of this together. So if people can, okay, if people can get into a good sleep pattern, they're going to be detoxing more effectively, which is it's very important to prevent Alzheimer's, right? Because of the fact that what we're seeing with Alzheimer's patients, right, is that there is this bioaccumulation of toxins within the body that can either be caused by the environment, but can also be caused by ourselves because we're not giving our body the time to recycle and to detox, and we're not resting well, right? So it all works together, which is why you're probably so passionate about being in lifestyle medicine and showing people that it's not just one thing or the other, but this all pulls together. Um, so importantly, now, can you tell me exactly what's happening with Alzheimer's? Like what's happening in the brain, in this, like at a cellular level?
Sure. So be specific, we normally see what are called amyloid and tau plaques in different parts of the brain, and different parts, different patients will have different parts of the brain affected, and that's why normally recommend getting a PET scan of the brain so you can actually image and see the areas where these plaques are accumulating. And these plaques they're like a scab. They're the body's way to heal injury, specifically the brain heal injury. And one of the interesting sources is infection. If you have a brain infection, amyloid is actually antibacterial. So it makes perfect sense for the brain to say, "Oh, there's some infection here. Let's go ahead and fight it." And yeah, so that's one of the things that's going on with specifically Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
Now, from a treatment standpoint, big pharma has made many different, you know had done like 70 different trials of drugs to specifically block the amyloid, and the initial, it hasn't worked very well. So there are nuances to this. I think it's mainly inflammation that if we can tap down, we can decrease and help actually reverse Alzheimer's.
So what are some of the early signs that people can start to look for in their loved ones or in themselves, to get a grip of this horrible disease at an early stage?
Sure. So I would, we're all gonna not necessarily have perfect recall of everything, but if you're in a place you're like, I can't remember where I am, or it's one thing if you misplace your keys, but if you're misplacing them several times a day,
Mhm.
that's a warning sign. If you What we're looking for are changes, right? I mean, if you could remember, if you normally know Stacy's name and now, oh, I can't remember her name. uh, so we're basically looking for changes in memory,
Mhm.
changes in behavior, you know, and not being able to operate equipment or a machine, or things that should be straightforward. We're basically we're looking for changes. It can be tricky though, because people try to hide this initially. I think basically because of embarrassment. You
Mhm.
know, I'll hear about someone elderly who specifically doesn't want to drive because they're worried that they won't be able to find their way home, or doesn't want to leave the house because they're afraid if they take a walk they won't be able to go home. And it's good that they're afraid of it, but we need to get to the underlying thing of, okay, so why is it that you won't be able to find your way home?
Yeah. So, what are some of the lifestyle factors? I mean, we kind of talked about like what's causing it lifestyle wise. And again, you said there's a huge list of things that can be, in direct correlation to kind of causing Alzheimer's. Like, what are some of the lifestyle things that we can start doing today to prevent this disease? Because like you said, and like um, Robbie Barbero of Mastering Diabetes said, I just interviewed him, like he's saying, like even though this type 3 diabetes like isn't a medical term yet, it's being thrown out there. So there's a lot to do with blood sugar, right? Like blood sugar regulation and insulin, increasing our insulin sensitivity. But like outside of that, like what can we do to prevent this? Because it's growing rapidly, right? I mean, the Alzheimer's is just, it seems like it's just getting up there with heart disease.
Yeah, so another key piece of lifestyle medicine is the sense of community, being around other people. I can't explain it, but I know our ancestors were designed to be around other people, and it seems like, when we're with more people, it actually stimulates the brain. If you think about, like, if you're at a dinner table with, five other people, just the brain power to not only talk to those people but anticipate what they're going to say next. And yeah, so I think there's something about, if you're not part of a community, find one. That's important. And there are definitely, I'm a fan of certain supplements that people can do. Specifically, I like um, omega-3 fatty acids, specifically from algae.
Mhm.
So plant-based omega-3s. But yeah, so diabetes, insulin resistance is a piece. It's not the only piece, and I think all these things are are definitely additive. Part of it's a vascular problem. If your blood vessels are blocked with fatty plaques,
Mhm.
if you're not delivering oxygen to the brain, the neurons there can't function. So there's yeah.
How do we accumulate fatty plaques? How do we avoid
Yeah,
accumulating?
yeah. Unfortunately, the Western high stress, we could talk about stress.
Yeah, stress is another.
Stress is definitely one thing that we want to minimize in order to prolong our life and reverse and prevent Alzheimer's. But from the studies, modern Western life, the high fat diet, the animal based diet, high cholesterol. Our bodies make enough cholesterol. We don't need external sources. But if you're eating the typical American diet, those fats are going to deposit in blood vessels throughout your body, including the ones in your heart and in the carotids that go to the brain. So, and this doesn't happen overnight, but I mean, if you look at autopsy studies, this actually starts, in 10-year-olds and younger kids. But it the first 10 years it might be a little fatty streak, and then after a couple of decades you get hard, the body tries to heal this, and that's when you get hardening, calcification, and eventually these pipes, they stop, they go from 100% down to 10 and 5 and 1, so it's a gradual process. It's when you get a quick going from a fatty plaque that breaks, you can go from a 50% blockage to 100% within a couple minutes, and that's when people have heart attacks and strokes. So you're as healthy as your blood vessels. Famous English physician Sydenham said that, I think, in the 1600s, and it's true. So I would try to optimize your diet and other lifestyle choices, including minimizing stress. And to minimize stress, whether that's meditation, whether it's exercise, whether it's journaling, whatever works for you is what you should be doing.
Yeah. And what about gratitude and reflection? I know that that's a pillar of lifestyle medicine. Has this been integrated that you've seen in any, Alzheimer's studies or anything like that to show benefit?
Yeah, I have seen some studies on gratitude, and I think not just gratitude, but also optimism.
Mm,
And I mean, there's studies showing that people who are optimistic about the future actually live longer.
right.
And so it works both ways.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't, if you're hearing this and saying like, I'm not optimistic and I have no gratitude, therefore I'm really pissed off, because like, no, this is, I think this is a natural side effect
Mhm.
once you actually get things aligned,
Mhm.
that and once you decrease the level of inflammation in your brain,
Right.
I find depression, all these bad thoughts
Right.
and feelings go away, and what replaces them are gratitude and healthy emotions like that.
Yeah, I know that it's definitely talked about so much in the lifestyle medicine world about, and Dr. Dean Ornish really talks a lot about like gratitude and reflection, and he does a lot of meditation. But again, like Dr. Helman is saying here, we have to knock the inflammation through all of these lifestyle factors, through the stress management, through the better sleep, through the whole food nutrition, specifically focusing so much on these polyphenol rich plants that help to reduce the inflammation, and the fiber that helps to sweep out the deep, the toxins that we're accumulating. It all just goes together. And if it seems overwhelming, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, he's saying so many things, just know that one little choice every single day will compound and make a difference over time in your life. So, I want to know from you, I want to know now a little bit more, Dr. Helman, about some of the specific herbs and supplements that you do like. I know that you mentioned super briefly that you do like some supplements, but in your talk at Woodstock Fruit Festival, you were talking about some cool herbs that I know I've heard of, some adaptogenic herbs too, that can help our body with lots of different things, right? With stress, with inflammation. Can you tell us about some of those?
I can try. I mean, I know I had my top 10 list at that
Yeah,
time.
yeah, just a
Let
few.
me just, and I'm also a big fan of essential oils. I don't know
Awesome.
if you came to that lecture, but uh, so where to start? I would recommend bacopa. I love rosemary,
Mhm.
and I also love Spanish sage. I
Cool.
think all of those are brain protective,
Okay.
and whether you want to take them orally or through it as an essential oil, um, yeah, I think that those are a good place to start.
Bacopa. So that is also known as water hyssop.
Yep.
Um, and so are you telling people to take that in a capsule form or a extract, like a tincture?
Either one I think would be fine. Yeah.
Okay. And also, what are some of your top essential oils? Are you saying to use them internally? Are you saying to use them on top of our skin, or to diffuse them, or can you
I,
elaborate?
I think I think all those are appropriate. Now, there's some essential oils you don't want to take internally,
Right.
but I'd say before you start taking essential oils, make sure you understand the source.
Hmm.
Because if you're going for the cheapest essential oil you can get on Amazon or Walmart, etc., my experience looking at the analysis is most of them are not from the plants. They're from petroleum that's been modified in a lab for like the major, for one of the components. And that's normally, I certainly wouldn't, I would try to stay away from that. So as long as you know that the essential oil you're taking is pure and doesn't have all this other stuff or in it, then I think it's fine to take orally. Now, like tree oils, you normally don't want to take internally, but so I would look it up before you take it internally. But
Yeah.
something like peppermint
Hmm.
or spearmint can be a great way to boost the brain.
Yeah.
Um, Vetiver Vetiver, I
Yeah.
find help. Have you heard of vetiver?
I love it so much. I have it right here, and I'm trying to go from like a clean, natural deodorant to just this new thing that I'm using. It's called Poetic Pits Underarm Charm. It's
Okay.
literally just essential oils, and I really just trying to give my pits the chance to detox fully. I haven't been using antiperspirant for years because of the aluminum and other things, fragrance and stuff like that, but it has vetiver in it, and vetiver is one of my favorite essential oils. I love it so much.
Right. So the interesting thing about vetiver is it's super viscous, it's super thick.
Yeah.
So if you happen to have a bottle just with vetiver oil, I normally recommend inverting it just so you actually get some on your finger, and then you could just put it under your tongue.
Okay.
I find I normally give patients a choice with like ADHD, ADD type symptoms. Hyperactivity is a way to calm the brain, and I tell them like, do you want Vyvanse? They both have two V's. You want Vyvanse or do you want vetiver? Most people are
Wow.
willing to start with a plant first. So
Wow. Tell me more about your what you're doing in Florida and your clinic and your practice and what you're building for the future.
yeah, so right now I'm in the process of setting up a clinic in South Florida with the express purpose of reversing Alzheimer's disease. And the plan is to layer on basically everything we talked about, from lifestyle medicine, reducing stress, eating the correct things, taking the right supplements, reversing other diseases. So in specifically offering this new FDA approved drug for compassionate use to the general public. This new drug no one has heard about and probably won't be released for another 6 years. But fortunately, the FDA said, you know what, we're not going to make people wait another 6 years because the results have been amazing just with one dose of this IV medication that goes in after over an hour. So I definitely have an integrative practice. I'm not dogma like you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. It's like, great, let's say that this is ancient Chinese medicine. That's great, but why don't we add some stuff to it? There've been some advances in the last couple thousand years. What? Why don't we use some of those to put it together, especially if you're trying to reverse, someone because even with someone with mild cognitive impairment with Alzheimer's, they're not quite right. It turns
Right.
out that that's one of the scary things about Alzheimer's is normally the process of destruction and causation happens 30 years in advance.
Right.
But the first 15 or 20 years, you may not know anything about it.
Right.
So to me, yeah, you got to put it all together.
Wow, that's awesome. This is so good. And now I'm thinking, you know, my grandma had Alzheimer's. Now I know that we can say, oh, these things run in the family, but really a lot of these lifestyle diseases are because of the lifestyle choices that we're making, right? So I'm trying not to play the victim card and say, well, I'm going to have it. So I'm trying to do what I can to not have it, but I'm thinking, I want to go down and get that IV, even though I don't have, even though I don't have the markers right now. Maybe I do. Hey, I forget some things. So
Well, I mean, until you have a diagnosis of dementia,
yeah.
unfortunately, the FDA won't let me give that to you. But you raise a good point. If you have a family history, I think it makes sense for you personally to find out what your ApoE. It's a genetic risk. Your
Right.
ApoE, if you have the ApoE4, and if you do you have one or two copies? Not to freak you out and make you worried, but we now know that. Let's say you do have one or two copies of this ApoE4. There's things you can do about it. You can actually you would need higher doses of this omega-3, but
Okay.
but it makes sense. Like, okay, I know about it. Oh, I need to double up my dose of omega-3. Oh, and by the way, yeah, maybe I should be taking a supplement like creatine, which we now know is a neurotransmitter. Creatine, I recommend people work up to say 5 grams orally a day of creatine. So
It's
so
funny
yeah,
I
it's
heard about creatine because I'm in this like raw challenge right now, and we're all eating raw for Lent after
okay.
Woodstock. And there's other
Wow.
people in this group, and I'm doing 95%. I might have some of my Hawaiian purple sweet potatoes, but anyways, I was hearing from one of the gals in there that she heard even the benefits for women. A lot of people link creatine just for men, but also for women as well. So that's something that I want to look into.
Right. And it's new information. 95% of the creatine is in your muscles. And yeah, if you're a bodybuilder, yeah. But we now know that creatine is also a neurotransmitter. 5% of it's in the brain in your body. And you can make a huge difference by supplementing with it.
Well, I might start taking that. I might start taking that. And then also I was going to wrap it up, but I have one more question because now I remember
Sure, Stacy.
from your yeah, I'm telling you, my mind is going. No, I have I have a lot of things I want to ask, but you mentioned nitric oxide. I think that nitric oxide is, a lot of doctors will call it the miracle molecule. You mentioned people take it. Do you take Cardio Miracle? Is that the
I
one?
do. I'm a
Okay.
fan of Cardio Miracle. I've been taking it for 6 years.
Okay.
Nitric oxide is important for people to take because it is a gas that opens up blood vessels,
Great.
and your nitric oxide levels in your blood vessels go down as you get older than say 20 or 25.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
And what do you think about fluoride interacting with the enzyme that helps to create nitric oxide? Have you?
Yeah, no, it does, and that's why I would recommend that you not use fluoridated toothpaste or um, toothpaste or mouthwash. We know fluoride is toxic to the brain. Kids raised with water or other sources of fluoride have lower IQs.
Right.
That we know that it should not be something added to the water.
Should
In my
not be in the
opinion,
water.
no, I don't think it should.
No.
And but you raise a good point. Half of the nitric oxide is produced in the mouth.
Mm.
So if you're using fluoridated mouthwash or other things in the mouth, you're going to kill the bacteria in your mouth that produce the nitric oxide.
Yeah. And that's another reason why it's so important to chew your greens, which I definitely have a hard time doing. I will say I just like to chew like once or twice and swallow my food. I'm a really bad chewer. So maybe blending your greens or taking
But
it.
but if you blend your greens, it's the
Yeah,
same issue because you've blended them.
it's
Instead
just going
of
down the hatch. You're not.
instead of just slurping it down, take a little slurp,
And
swish it in your mouth before you
does that have to do
swallow.
with salivary amylase? I mean, does it have to do with amylase? Is that what it is? Or do you
I mean,
know?
I mean, I mean, amylase is a just an enzyme that breaks down sugar. It's in the mouth. It's also in your stomach and other parts of the gut. No, I don't think it's
Okay.
no.
Okay.
It's the concept that you have bacteria. You have some good bacteria in your mouth and your tongue that will actually take the nitrates and produce the nitric oxide from them.
Yeah, I can't remember what that enzyme is called. Now I need to look it up. I just interviewed Dr. Esselstyn and he was talking about it. And it just brought back the importance of educating the people about fluoride and not using it. So switch to hydroxyapatite toothpaste and definitely filter your water.
Oh yeah,
These are some key.
definitely, and the enzyme may be inos nitric oxide synthetase.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it was actually.
Would be my guess.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I have one more question for you and then
Sure.
I'll let you go. I ask a lot of my guests this and I want to know your thoughts. What does holistic living mean to you?
Wow. So the word holistic means whole. So holistic living is living a life that's complete, where you're willing to have a broad view, not be uh, focusing on just one thing. Just be willing to be open to all the different areas of abundance in the world.
Hmm. Oh, I love that. Oh, abundance is one of my favorite words. So it's a great way to end this episode. Dr. Helman, thank you so much for your time and thank you for sharing your insight, your wisdom, and your knowledge with the people. I really, really appreciate it. And I know so many will too. So I appreciate you and take care.
Thanks, Stacy. It was great talking.